Hello and welcome to this video recording on creating a Gantt chart in Microsoft Excel. Microsoft Excel is a very powerful business application tool, and you can use it to create a simple Gantt chart. Now there are other tools out there, Microsoft Project being the most famous, but it is a separate cost above and beyond the cost of Office and is not inexpensive. So if you need a Gantt chart, you can do something in Excel that would be that would convey the information of a Gantt chart visually. So let's put together a chart. We're just going to use 4 columns for this chart: the tasks involved, and then the dates there. I'm also going to be talking about Excel and some general Excel skills as we go along. So for example, I'm going to have these 3 columns right aligned, task left aligned, because as I put numbers in here, dates and numbers will be right aligned moving to the left there. You need to come up with a set of tasks according to the project directions that are something kind of interesting and realistic. I'm going to use a job application. So let's say we might start by advertising for job opening as our first task there. You can resize these columns by grabbing the bar between the columns and moving it. You can also resize columns by double-clicking between the letter column headings, and it'll automatically resize to the largest element inside the column. And we're going to say that this starts on 7.5, and for formatting in Excel, if I want to do formatting here in the home tab, this is 2010 I'm using, in the home tab in the numbers group there's a drop down list, and there's a short date and a long date. I'm going to use the short date here and plug in values. Number of days for advertising, we'll say it's 31 days, and then the stop date, I could do the math in my head, but Excel, of course, one of the advantages of Excel is that it will do calculations for you. So I can use a function, a formula, start with an equal sign to indicate that this is a function or a formula, and then I want the value in this cell plus the value in this cell. I can type that in manually, B2 plus C2, or I can click on the cells at the appropriate time and it'll fill them in. And this gives me a new date. Now I do realize that it's not taking into account, these are 31 days, it's including Saturdays and Sundays, so we could do something a little more complicated if we wanted to factor those in, but we're just doing this very simple here. And double clicking on a cell will highlight the formula, and I can see in blue and green in this case the 2 cells that are being affected by this formula, and the effect is that we're adding those together to get a value. Let's see, there's an initial review of applications, and again that doesn't fit my column anymore, so I'll just double click and resize automatically. I'm going to start this on, we'll start this immediately after on 8/6. Now again, my formatting here, so one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight just a large range here and format all of these in short date, and same thing here, I'll format all these in short date. So even though I haven't typed the values in there, those cells they know to show up in short date format when they show up there. 7 days for this, and again the same formula, this plus this. Instead of typing it again, I'm going to use an Excel feature where you just drag down the formula that you desire. You go to the lower right hand corner, is called the fill handle, and you can drag this down and it will copy. So now I can see that I'm using the same formula in D3 that I had in D2. I'm actually going to fill in B and C all the way down, and I'll just do one drag and fill all of my dates at the end there. So what are the things here we want to do? After we do an initial review of applications, we might do a phone interview with maybe the top 8 candidates or so. And we can start that phone interview again right after the other thing finishes. I can start the phone interviews even on the 13th there. And the phone interviews, we can do those over a course of, actually do it over 2 days probably with the interviews. We could do 4 a day, but one of the things that we would want to do in those interviews is we also might want to have some lead time for that. So I don't know if I'm going to say this starts on the 13th. I might actually say this starts on the 17th. We'll give ourselves a couple of days to schedule. Once we know who we want to call, give a couple of days to schedule it, and then the dates come in there. And again, I'll just copy that down. But so 2 dates after the 17th, be done on the 19th. Phone interview, identify the short list after the phone interviews. The interviews are done on the 19th, so we can start that process on the 20th. And again, I'm not taking into account in this Gantt chart, this example, I'm not taking into account Saturdays and Sundays. If I was doing this for a presentation, for a formal project, I might, look in where does the 19th fall on the calendar and put a couple, make this the following Monday or something. We're doing this a little oversimplified here. So identify the short list. We'll give ourselves 3 days for that. After we identify the short list, on-site interview number 1, we have to figure out how many people want to bring on-site. On-site interview number 2, I think 4 is what I'll do in this example. On-site interview number 3. And speaking of that fill handle, just as a little trick of Excel, when you have things like this that are the contents are the same except for a number changing at the end, you can actually use the fill handle to do that. So if I wanted to have 17 on-site interviews, I wouldn't have to type them all in. I could use the fill handle. Again, undo that. The way that to do it that way, you have to have not one cell but 2 side-by cells, a range of 2 cells where there is a 1 and a 2 or a 5 and a 6 or something, and it will interpret from those all the other values. So that's a nice little thing of Excel. Saves a little bit of typing. Spent more time talking about it than I spent typing it, but. And then I'll make my decision. So this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 tasks in this process. Now, looking at my schedule, I did manage to finish the short list. We've identified the candidates we want to do on-site interviews with on the 23rd, but we probably want to give ourselves some time here before we actually bring the candidates on campus, because we've got to work with their schedules and get them in. So I'm going to give myself a couple weeks there. It takes 2 days on campus, and then you can see I've actually copied this formula all the way in down here using this fill copy. I don't know how I did that. Never mind. I could have those in there. Right now it's adding 0 and 0 and coming up with a date, but I don't want to talk about the date too much. So if I left that in there, that'd be fine. I'll just do the stop date copy afterwards. So candidate 2, I'm on the 5th, so I can bring that candidate in the next day, 9/5, and that's 2 days. And then we'll wait another week, 9/10 and 9/12 for bringing our candidates in. Each of those takes 2 days, and then we've got all of our information there. So now we're ready to make our decision. We're done with our interviews on the 14th, so we can say maybe on the 15th we can try to make our decision. We'll give ourselves 3 days to make our decisions, to go through all the feedback from all the candidates when they come in. They meet with different people. Everybody get involved, gets to fill out a form on them, have to go through all those, and committee makes a decision. So we've got our data for a Gantt chart. Now, what we want to do is we want to take this same data and we want to display it graphically. That's what a Gantt chart allows us to do. You can use these data for following along, but I want you to come up with your own project with your own steps and your own timeline. So this project lasts a little over 2 months. Yours might last something significantly shorter, like 7 days, or it might last even longer. Just come up with something with the about the right level of granularity. And obviously I could put a lot more information in this process. We're glossing over issues with the phone interview and who gets involved, or glossing over the on-site interview, and the details of that on-site interview would be very broken down. Those 2 days would be very booked according to a schedule. So you just need to find the right level of granularity so that your project that you're doing, creating your Gantt chart in Excel, has about 7 steps or maybe a little more, potentially less, but I would try to stick with whatever it says in the guidelines that you're following. If I go under the ribbon, I have tabs: File, Home, Insert, and on the Insert tab there's Groups, Tables, Illustrations, Charts, and in the Charts group there is an option for a bar chart, and we want to do a bar chart, and it has options 2D, 3D, and others. Yours may look slightly different depending on the version of Excel you're working with, but you should have the option for a 2D stacked bar chart, and we want to select a 2D stacked bar chart. Now before I do that, what I forgot to do is first select the data that we want to display visually, and then Insert, Bar Chart, 2D Bar Chart, and we'll get something that looks like this. Now that does not look like a Gantt chart yet, I completely understand, but we're going to make this look like a Gantt chart. There's a number of things that we want to do, some changes we need to make to this chart so that it looks like a Gantt chart. First thing I notice here is that my date is in backwards. I got my decision at the top and my advertise for the job position at the end. If I right click, if I left click on this data here, I can see that I've got a handle. The highlighted area is around the information on that vertical axis. And if I right click once that's highlighted, I can say Format Axis in the pop-up dialog box. And there is an option here under Axis Options. There is about 2 or 3 down. There is Categories in Reverse Order. So I'm going to say Categories in Reverse Order. And now I'm in the order I want to be in. Advertise is at the top and Make Decision is at the bottom. Okay, so that's the first thing that I changed here. Another thing that I want to change is I can resize this, make it a little longer by just grabbing the and positioning it differently. So I can change the layout of this by moving it around so I can see my date at the top, but I can also see my Gantt chart at the bottom there. Okay, now some more things I need to do here is I want to look at my dates. The range in my dates, that doesn't look very good for me. That says it's 1900 versus some other weird time here. Dates in Excel are done a little bit differently. So if I look on my chart here, my earliest time is 7/5, so 7/5 is my earliest date, and my last date is 9/18. It's not always the last value. Sometimes the final date is here if later steps but not the last step, if later tasks but not the last text has a lot of steps in it. But 9/18 is my last one, so 9/18. And I can view this date in various ways, right? I can view it in short date format, and I see 7/5/2012 and 9/18/2012. Those are my earliest and late dates in my chart. I can also view this under what's called general format, and I see a number. Without getting into too much details, Excel actually represents dates as numbers as an offset from January 1st, 1900. So those dates, which don't mean anything to us in particular, those happen to be the integer values that correspond to our start date and end date. So now what I want to do is I want to come here into my chart again, and I'm going to click on this axis, the horizontal axis, click on it once to select it, and I can see that it's got the highlight bars around it. Then right click and say Format Axis, just like we did on the other one. But not, at this point I'm going to change the minimum and maximum values to be those values that correspond to my chart's date. So 41/095 and 41170. Oops, I typed that last one wrong. Format Axis 170. Okay, so now it's kind of starting to look like a Gantt chart. At least the reds in the middle are. I don't really want these blues to be in here, so I'm going to select one of the blue bars, and I can see visually on the screen that all of my blue bars are highlighted. They have the little circles around the edges, and the entire set is highlighted there. I'm going to right click on that and say Format the Data Series, and the second option in the left is Fill, and I'm going to say No Fill. Okay. Now on older versions of Excel, you would have to say no fill and no line. In this case, no fill also makes the line goes away. Same thing with the green. Select one of the green elements and all the green elements get highlighted. Right click, Format Data Series, second option Fill, select No Fill radio button, and I'm done. So now I'm starting to look more and more like a Gantt chart. So let's just clean this up a few ways. A number of things I can do to help clean this up. First of all, I've got this thing here called my legend. I can select that and delete it. Also, when my chart's selected, I can go under Chart Tools, which has 3 tabs in Chart Tools, and I can go under Layout, Legend, and say None. So either way, I'm deleting my legend there. What else do I see on this that I can clean this up? And these are just things you can do in Excel to with any chart. I can do these things with this particular chart. One thing I see here is I'm looking, my dates here are 7/5, 7/15, 7/25. They're the major breaks are at 10 days. Typically, you'd want to think about having those breaks be at week levels. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to format the axis, and I'm going to say my major units, instead of 10, which is automatic, I'm going to make it 7, because that will give me items broken up by the week. Make this a little bit longer so they all fit on the screen. I can do some other things. So now my dates are fitting on the screen. That's good. If I needed to I could do some other things. If my dates didn't fit, if I had too many in there, what I would do is I'd go through here and I would break that up to be every 2 weeks. I'd make it 14. If it didn't fit, you could break it up into 2 weeks, and you can make a minor column every 7 days. So there I would have, the minor's not showing up here. I could go under my axis, not the title, not the legend, not the data labels. Grid lines, sorry, couldn't find it. So my vertical grid lines, I could say show the minors. So if I want to do it this way, and I don't have enough room, my dates are all being crashed in there because it goes, there's not enough room, I could put the actual labels as my major axis every 14 days, but I have a line in there every 7 days for my minor axis. That's what I'm doing here. A major axis, this major means it's going to have a data label associated with it. Minor means it's going to show up with a line on the chart, but there's not going to be data there. I'm going to do these every 7 days because it fits on mine. I have enough room, my dates aren't crashing together. And just by making it a little bit bigger, or by making this font a little bit smaller, I can make those fit. So you got a number of options on how to get all that data to fit there. What else do I want to do? Well, as one thing about these dates, again, these are in short date format. They look like this. In long date format, it's Thursday and a Tuesday. I don't really want those to be a Thursday and a Tuesday. I'd like it to be, these lines to be on Mondays. So I'm going to say if the 5th is a Thursday, then Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday, 432. I'm going to change this first date down by 3 values, so it goes from 95 to 92. That gets me down to a Monday. Right. And I can see 7-2 is a Monday. And likewise, I want my chart to end on a Monday. I'm really running out of room here on my screen. We'll scoot this over just a little bit here. So that all this ends on a Monday. Well, phooey, not fitting very well. Okay. And I'm ending on the 17th is a, so I go past the 17th, which is a Monday, because Tuesday is the 18th, so I'm going to add 6 days, which is going to add another week to my, I'll just leave it. 17th is a Monday, so that's good. And I can see that I actually go a day over the 17th. Okay, so that looks good. My Gantt chart's looking pretty good here. What else do we want to do at this point? I don't need these dates anymore. They were just to get my ranges. And just real quick rules. As you're selecting, you select the chart versus selecting inside the chart. You can see the highlight bars, selecting inside the chart, selecting inside the chart, and so on. When the chart is selected, this chart tools layout is visible at the top of Excel. If I have a cell selected, like just G4, notice that it says Review, View, Team, and that's all. But once you click into the chart, you get this extra chart tool. The Design option would give you some ways of doing some modifying your chart with some different styles there. You could look at those, but I think going into the Layout tab is what I would recommend. And in the Layout tab, you can change each of these things, like the chart title. You can put a title in here. And this title might be, for example, title is going to be Job Interview Process. Also in my chart, under the layout, I could do axis titles. I think it's pretty clear in this case what's going on, but if I wanted to have a vertical axis, I could have a rotated vertical axis title here, and I could say that it is the project steps, or job interview steps, job interview tasks even. And you can click this and you can change the the color of it and the font size and all those things. So you can format your elements inside your Gantt chart just like you would expect. Under the layout, if you want to change the legend, again, we don't have a legend, but if you wanted a legend at the top or at the bottom, you could put that in there. And I don't really need a start date or a stop date, so I can select once and then select again inside the legend to delete the things. But I don't like the legend. We'll turn the legend back off. I think it takes up space. Data labels, data tile, axis. Again, if you want some elements, you can go through here and make some changes if you want to. And then on formatting, the third of the chart tools types, you've got some options to come through here and do some pre-selected format colors. So I could do it in a black background or a black background with some white border. I think one of the blue options might look pretty good here for some of these, so I could select one of those. And I've got a nice little Gantt chart. This could be an image that I could capture. I could right click and copy this, paste it into Word or something like that if I wanted to just get that chart. I could use any of my clipping programs. So if you've got a program like Snipping Tool, you could run the Snipping Tool program, and you could say, okay, I want a new image here, and I could grab this image from Snipping Tool and grab the Gantt chart from a Snipping Tool, and then I've got a PDF of this Gantt chart that I could place into a Word document or something if I wanted to. Right. So there's lots of reasons why you might want to do this. And even as I look at this Gantt chart versus looking just at the raw data, I can see I've got my window of time in here between identifying the shortlist and the first on-site interview, where I've got some time to make contacts with those people and make their schedules. And same thing, there's a time after we review the applications before we start the phone interviews, the 2 days of phone interviews. There's a little bit of time there as well in my chart. So it's a nice little tool. Excel is extremely powerful and something that you absolutely want to become familiar with. The more time you can spend working on Excel and playing with Excel, the more comfortable you're going to be when it comes time to do something with Excel. Perhaps, for example, doing a Gantt chart when you don't have access to Microsoft Project or some of the more expensive but professional Gantt chart tools, schedule tools that are out there.